Coming in at number 5, Under the Bridge. This video comes to us from Kiev, Ukraine, after a man stood on the side of the road filming the passing cars. However, he gets a nasty shock when he pans over to a large pedestrian bridge. Under the bridge, you can clearly see a creature suspended upside down and crawling under the bridge. Now, you may be thinking that it must be human attached to some ropes, but no, when you zoom in on the creature, it is very clearly not human. The figure instead seems to have very long arms and effortlessly moves under the bridge at quick speeds. Now, there are certainly no apes or monkeys in the Kiev area, so what exactly could this creature be? Or do you think this could be a man who has developed the skills to scale upside down using just his hands and feet? For some reason, a lot of the creatures on our list appear to look like the Rake, a creature we will touch on later down the line. Stay tuned. Coming in at number 4, Something in the Trees. This clip was posted by a farmer in India who was supposedly out at night searching for some missing sheep. Now, using his night vision camera, he doesn't find the missing sheep, but he finds something else, something far more sinister and terrifying. The man walks around for a little while, showing mostly the ground while hunting for his flock. However, suddenly he slows his movements, stops and pans the camera up, revealing something in the trees in the distance, swaying side to side ever so slightly. The man is of course terrified and begins panting and running away. The creature in the tree looked angry, perched, almost ready to attack in a way. All I can say is, if this video is real, those sheep aren't coming back. To me, this looks like another variation of the Rake, a creature we will touch on yet again later down the line. Coming in at number 3, we have Gremlins. A CCTV camera caught this bizarre incident in a bar in Singapore after hours. In the evening, the video seems to show 3 men in the bar, one clearing up behind the bar while the 2 others are seated on some stools. However, things begin to get a little weird when one of the stools next to the men begins to sway on its own accord. Now, it is clear that there is no outside force at play here, with the men not even being aware that the chair is moving until it sways hard enough to fall back and hit the ground. The men are of course shocked and perplexed as to how it magically fell over on its own, but as this is happening, something can be seen running out from a different room in the back. It appears to be small and entirely white and runs past the men and through the bar. Though it is the size of a toddler, maybe smaller, the creature doesn't appear to run like a child and moves way too fast and with purpose. Not to mention, it is doubtful that the staff would allow a child to run around the bar at 3 AM. So, saying that, what exactly is this creature? Well, some people on the web are saying that both a ghost and a gremlin were involved in the bar incident. That's quite the team up. A gremlin is of course a folkloric mischievous creature that causes malfunctions in aircraft and other machinery, so they say. Depictions of the creatures vary, but they are often described as animals with spiky backs, large strange eyes and small clawed frames that feature sharp teeth. Now, we are unable to see from the video if that was the case. I'm going to assume not. So, what do you guys think? Coming in at number 2, we have the Hellhound. Now, this creature first appeared on the TV series Mountain Monsters in Pike County, Kentucky. Now, some backstory to begin. A hellhound is a supernatural dog in folklore that has often been described as mangled with black fur, its glowing red eyes, super strength and speed, ghostly or phantom characteristics, and foul odor. Certain European legends state that if someone stares into a hellhound's eyes 3 times or more, that person will surely die. It is also noted as being around 7 feet long and between 400 to 500 pounds. Jumping forward in time, the guys on Mountain Monsters began receiving some reports of a potential hellhound lurking in the Pike County area and lingering on some farms. So they went to take a look.
Like I said, I heard that sound. This is as far as I was willing to go. You could tell I was scared.
At around 30 seconds, you can see the hellhound emerge from a shed, and it truly looks as massive as they described it. It also seems to have a hump in its spine, making it appear even bigger. After investigating the scene and rewatching the video, the guys estimated the creature to be around 4 to 5 feet tall and 7 feet long, which is absolutely terrifying. What do you guys think though? The hellhound of Pike County or something far less sinister and more explainable?
Definitely had fear in your heart. Absolutely.
Wow.
Whoa.
Damn. He was right there.
That's right.
He was close.
And finally, coming in at number 1, we have you believe is up to you though.
Coming in at number 5, we have Dagon. Dagon is a deity of an amphibious humanoid race that resides in Earth's oceans. He is first introduced in Lovecraft's short story simply titled Dagon, and is mentioned numerous times throughout the Cthulhu mythos universe. Also known as Father Dagon, as he is considered one of the Great Old Ones. The story follows a tortured, lost-at-sea addict who is an escaped prisoner of war from the Germans in the Pacific. He escapes on a lifeboat and drifts aimlessly until he eventually finds himself stranded on a slimy purgatory black island, which is putrid with carcasses of decaying fish, nasty stinky mud, and slimy mold. His theory was that this area was formerly a portion of the ocean floor that had risen to the surface by volcanic activity and tsunami-like waves. Days of walking, he reaches the edge of the canyon, a gigantic white stone, a smooth monolith that's covered in unfamiliar hieroglyphs consisting of fishes, eels, octopuses, crustaceans, whales, crude sculptures of men with webbed hands and webbed feet, flabby lips, glassy bulging eyes. Sounds like aliens to me. Dagon then appears from the water, and the mariner departs quickly in fear, paddling away from the island before being rescued by a US Navy ship. Lovecraft seems to be referring to the ancient Sumerian god named Dagon, who is the fertility god of grain and fish in the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god. He resembles the carving and legend like the Sumerian deity, depicted as being part fish, part man, seen wearing a fish on his head. That's pretty creepy. Number 4, night gaunts. The concept of night gaunts first came to Lovecraft as a young boy in a series of recurring nightmares, which they would whirl him through space at a sickening rate of speed. In his dreams, of course. Lovecraft credited the illustrations based off of inspirations from Gustave Doré, who drew everything from angels to demons in the Bible. Gothic, winged, and demonic, alright. Shocking and uncouth. Jet black with smooth, oily whale-like skin. Long, sharp horns that curved inward towards each other. Giant, silent bat wings flap, chewed claws, and a barbed, spiny tail. And worst of all, these creatures never spoke or laughed or smiled, and this is because there was only smooth skin where the face should be. It's terrifying. These faceless night gaunts have a vaguely human shape as well. Their skin is slick and rubbery. They can fly using a set of membranous wings and poke and stab with their tail, tickling and torturing their victims. Tickling? Quote, out of the crypt they crawl, I cannot tell, but every night I see the rubbery things, black, horned and slender, with membranous wings. They come in legions on the north winds, swell, with obscene clutch that titillates and stings, snatching me off monstrous voyages to grey worlds hidden deep within my nightmares well. Okay. Poetic. Yeah, that sounds terrifying, dude. This guy was definitely suffering from either night terrors or alien abductions. I don't know, what do you think? Number 3, Ron-Taggoth. From Lovecraft's The Horror in the Museum, Ron-Taggoth is the great old one of hibernation, immortality, and ruin. Ancient texts agree that when Ron-Taggoth awakens, the end of times shall be upon us. 3 million years ago, during the Pliocene epoch, it inhabited an era of Alaska before going into a hibernation-like trance. He was the last god to sleep and probably meant to be the first to wake. The god is shaped like an enormous insect, kind of like an aquatic arthropod with a barrel-shaped trunk with 6 appendages all ending in claw-like pincers. Subtle. He has a circular head covered with hair-like filaments or feelers, tentacle probes, and 3 small eyes. He weighs 20,000 pounds at 10 feet with legs more than 20 feet long. The story follows the relationship of Stephen Jones and George Rogers, the owner of a wax museum specializing in the grotesque and a weary guest. Jones mocks Rogers, then comes to suspect that he is demented and obsessed with these stories of rites and sacrifices to this nameless ancient god. Jones stays the night at the museum where he's attacked by the host and then sacrificed to Ron-Taggoth, resulting in more statues within the museum. Terrifying. Ron-Taggoth influences human minds and compels them to perform increasingly violent sacrifices in front of him. Sometimes humans have been known to temporarily awake Ron-Taggoth from hibernation with certain chance, but always end up being devoured by the beast. Hey, we better pray that this LiDAR technology really doesn't get going. They eventually scan Antarctica and the Arctic under all that ice and snow? Who knows what we're gonna find sleeping down there. Number 2, Yig. The story of Yig begins long before this story was written. Yig, the father of serpents, is a semi-anthropomorphic great old one, that's a mouthful, who was worshipped as a god in Central America and the southern United States. From Guatemala to Oklahoma, Yig is seen as the ancestor of the almighty Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan of the Aztecs in central Mexico. And now, the story. In 1889, upon arriving in Oklahoma, a couple learn about a local legend surrounding a snake god called Yig, which takes vengeance on anyone who kills a serpent by either killing them or turning them into a half-snake monster in place of the deceased. Eye for an eye. The husband of the researchers has an intense fear of snakes, and his wife, knowing this, kills a nest of rattlesnakes at one of their campsites. It's a great way to summon this guy. Yig is human size, hairless, and around the shoulders is speckled and brownish with a snake skin. His head is flat like an amphibian with piercing cold black eyes. Unlike most of the great old ones, Yig is seen as rarely malicious, and although he enters a feeding frenzy from August to October, the Pawnee, Wichita, and Caddo of Oklahoma drum constantly during those months to drive him away. The husband is horrified by the thought that Yig is going to take vengeance and insists on practicing the rituals from the First Nations people to keep Yig away. During the middle of the night, in fear, the woman kills her own husband in the dark, paranoid, thinking he's the monster. She's then taken to an asylum and dies there. But not before giving birth to 4 half-serpent hybrid creatures. Spooky! I was going to say, this guy doesn't seem that bad. He's only malicious if you threaten or hurt his serpents. Kind of resembles Charizard a little bit. I mean, the Medusa children, very horrifying, but other than that, he's not a bad guy. And coming in at the number 1 spot, Cthulhu. This number 1 spot goes to who I think is the most terrifying. Not only is she younger and stronger than the king of all kings of monsters, she's known as the Kraken, or the Secret One. She is the spawn offspring of Cthulhu and Idia. She's kind of like the biggest deal. She's the daughter of Cthulhu and is essential to his great plan for the entire universe, as should he somehow die, Cthulhu will give birth to him once again while assuming her father's role as the Great One. As such, she is guarded by the Deep Ones below the ocean in what might be assumed to be the ancient city of Relay. She was first born from the star Zoth, but landed in Earth's oceans atop her father when they crashed here. Also called the Secret One because the cult tried to hide all information about the goddess, most famously by defacing the columns of Geth, as her legend was recorded steadily in Greek myths such as Skylla. Yeah, That's her. Her father, Cthulhu, is a cosmic entity, first introduced in Lovecraft's short story in 1928. The Lovecraft mythos gives birth to this modern abysmal horror. Cthyla is the youngest of Cthulhu and his partner Idya, and therefore the most frightening. Cthyla is destined to give birth to the next great Cthulhu again, after he is destroyed in the near prophesized future. Project X was a secret and failed attempt to kill Cthyla with a subterranean atomic missile, but it was no match for this gigantic red-bodied, six-eyed octopus with wings. Yeah, she's able to alter her body proportions at will, such as enlarging her wings to fly or even swim. She has 8 arms like any octopus, so not only is she impenetrable from any of Earth's deterrents, she has the ability to camouflage anywhere. See what I mean? She's literally the scariest.
Coming in at number 5, we have the Wendigo, also referred to as the Wetico. This is a mythological man-eating creature or evil spirit from the folklore of the Native American Algonquin tribes, based in the northern forests of Nova Scotia, the east coast of Canada, and the Great Lakes region of Canada. It is a monster with characteristics of a human, or even a spirit who has possessed a human being and made them monstrous. It has been referred to as a possessing force that makes a person want to eat human flesh, found mostly in areas with a shortage of food in the wintertime. However, there are more than just one variant. The second is a northern ghoul variant. A person who eats human flesh becomes the Wendigo, rather than eating flesh because they were possessed by the Wendigo. This can oftentimes be depicted as a floating humanoid figure that moves quickly with the wind, with a starved figure and a distended belly because they're always starving for more human flesh. Now the third variant is more recent, linking descriptions of Bigfoot or Yeti with the Wendigo myth, where it is a mix between human and furry. Regardless of the variant, the Wendigo is on the hunt for human flesh, making you, a mere wanderer in the woods, their prime target.
Number 4, the Yotun. Watch your back, stay away from trees with sharp branches if you ever think you've encountered one of these Nordic nature spirits. If you're not careful, you might end up as a gruesome sacrifice. Known to many as a son of Loki, this beast man thing has a shape-shifting capability and is generally pretty ambiguously defined. Often when someone is referring to a Yotun, they could be talking about a giant or a troll or a number of other large mythical monsters. However, today I want to make pretty sure that we are clear in defining it as a malicious, sacrifice-seeking shapeshifter. There are many Yotun out there, but it is best to be prepared for the worst of the bunch. If you've ever seen David Bruckner's movie The Ritual, you already know how horrifying Yotun can truly be. In the movie, 4 friends go on a hiking trip in Sweden in honor of their dead friend. One of them injures their knee and they're forced to take a shortcut through an unmapped forest. Always a bad call, guys, come on. Haven't you ever watched a horror movie? During their time in the woods, they come across an eviscerated deer hanging from a tree. One of the friends wakes up with unexplainable injuries, and they even find another friend praying in the nude to a wooden statue without ever realizing it. Very soon after this, 2 of the friends are taken and killed by the Yotun. The other 2 friends discover a body as they come across a village of Yotun worshippers. This is where the real scary stuff starts. They find out that the villagers sacrifice people to the Yotun in exchange for immortality and trap the 2 remaining friends. During an attempted escape, the beast reveals its shape-shifting abilities by luring one of the men with a facsimile of his wife. Then its true form is revealed, a massive, 8-legged, partially human, partially beastly, shambling monstrosity with huge antlers and bony human arms. Ready to hear how one of the protagonists gets killed? The Yotun reaches out with these bony human arms and impales the man on a sharp tree branch, leaving him to bleed out. Ouch. Coming across one of these guys in the woods means you'll likely meet the same fate. You might think that due to the size of it, it wouldn't be too fast. Well, you'd be wrong. It is extremely fast and will know the forest like the back of its terrifying hands. It's not a nature spirit for nothing. As a son of Loki, it is an excellent trickster as well, and will take the form of whatever it needs to hunt its prey. Loki seriously got around, huh? Fathering murderous forest beasts. Jeez. The impaling upon tree branches has a bit of a Norse background as well. If you've ever studied Norse mythology, you'll know that Odin hung himself from the world tree, Yggdrasil, and was impaled upon the spear in order to learn the secrets of rune magic. It's possible that the Yotun is impaling creatures and humans alike on trees as sacrifices to Odin himself. That's hardcore, but you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end. I also mentioned it having 8 legs earlier, which may remind you of another creature in Norse mythology, Sleipnir, Odin's 8-legged horse. It's all coming together. However, unless you're a Norse god yourself, I would recommend staying away from this one, and unless you like getting impaled on trees. It's your life, I guess.
Coming in at number 3, the Dullahan, also known as the original Sleepy Hollow. The Dullahan is a headless rider, usually on a black horse, who carries his head under his arm. Now, although the Dullahan is typically male, there have been some female versions throughout folklore. The mouth is usually in a hideous grin that reaches both sides of the head. Think the Joker and you're on the right track. Not only that, but his eyes are constantly moving about and can see across the countryside, even during the darkest of nights. It has been said by those who have reported sightings that the flesh of the head is the colour and consistency of mouldy cheese, which as a dairy intolerant person is revolting to me, just saying. The Dullahan uses the spine of a human corpse for a whip, and its wagon is adorned with funeral objects, e.g. candles and skulls to light the way. The spokes of the wheels are made from the thigh bones, the wagon's covering made from the worm-chewed pal or dried human skin. Now here's where things get spooky, especially for anyone tracking through the dark woods. When the Dullahan stops riding, that is when a person is due to die. The Dullahan will then call out the person's name, at which point that person will immediately perish. Now even more terrifying still, there is no way to bar the path against a Dullahan. All locks and gates open to them when they approach. They also do not appreciate being watched while on their errands, throwing a basin of blood on those who dare to do so. You have been warned.
At number 2, we have Skinwalkers. In Navajo lore, Skinwalkers are known as he who walks on all fours, powerful medicine men and witches who have acquired various supernatural powers through terrible means. Shapeshifting is one of their most well-known attributes, most commonly taking the forms of coyotes, crows, bears, wolves, cougars, and owls. They also have a tendency to appear as unspeakable chimeras with hideous amalgamations of both human and animal features. Skinwalkers begin as humans who placed terrible curses upon themselves through rituals of pure evil. They're required to commit terrible atrocities, grotesqueries, and grave taboos. This can often require the killing of a family member or a loved one. When all is said and done, they're infused with the insidious curse and the awful powers that come with it. Once a skinwalker, they are often banished from their tribes for submitting to evil and left to walk the badlands and forests forever. As they traverse the wastes, they are often seen as animalistic, even in their human forms. Also, they will often travel naked. If they weren't scary enough already, there's a chance you'll come across a nude, ungodly abomination in the woods. Yikes. These monsters are extremely strong and agile in addition to their magical powers. They can use their abilities to mesmerize, instill fear, sow confusion, and even take control of another's body for a short period of time. On top of this, they're extremely difficult to kill. Unless you know their original name or have a very specific ash to coat your knife, good luck getting rid of a skinwalker. There are countless stories of skinwalkers being terrifying in forests all across North America. One story details the time a duo in Arizona came across a gigantic coyote sitting perfectly still in the middle of the road. It didn't even flinch when they drove by it and started chasing the car afterwards. It was right on the car's tail, even at 50 miles per hour. This obviously freaked the passengers out, but what happened next was absolutely bone-chilling. The coyote ran alongside the car and looked into the window with human-like eyes. Then it smiled at the driver and let out a screech before running off into the night. Yeah, remind me not to take a late night drive in Arizona. Another skinwalker story is even scarier thanks to the long-lasting consequences of the encounter. A man and his friend were on a hiking trip and got separated at some point. Hours later, they reconnected, but there was something wrong with one of them. He didn't seem to be himself and seemed to not know many details about his own life. Upon returning to the city, the friend who disappeared seemed lost, like he didn't know where he was going. He was dropped off at his house and was never heard from again. This could very well be an instance of a skinwalker taking over someone's body for a very long time. Whether the friend's body was taken over or if he was killed and replaced by the skinwalker, it's hard to tell. The prospect of a loved one being taken over permanently by a skinwalker is blood-curdling indeed. So unless you want yourself or a family member being taken over, I would say avoid skinwalkers to the best of your ability. Not that you would be able to tell if you were near one.
And finally coming in at number 1, SCP-1000. SCP-1000 is a nocturnal omnivorous ape which ranges from 5 to 10 feet in height and weighs between 200 and 600 pounds. They often have grey, brown, black, red and occasionally white fur and possess large eyes with good vision, with intelligence that is on par with the common chimpanzee.
Now, SCP-1000 evolved alongside humans up until, 10,000, 15,000 years ago, when an extinction event eliminated all but 1 to 5% of their population. This event was triggered by SCP-1000 contracting an anomalous pseudo-disease, which can be classified as SCP-1000-F1. This disease is passed on at the genetic level and affects every present-day instance of SCP-1000. Now, the effect of SCP-1000-F1 is as follows. Any humanoid that directly or indirectly observes any instance of SCP-1000 has a minimum 2% chance of being instantly killed through anomalous means via permanent cessation of brain function.
Meaning if you cross paths with an instant of SCP-1000 while alone in the woods, you have a high chance of biting the dust. All media reports related to SCP-1000 are to be examined for potential verifiability, and all organizations and individuals investigating SCP-1000's existence are to be kept under surveillance by Mobile Task Force Zeta-1000 and discredited or administered amnestics.
Starting the list off at number 5, the Migo. No, I'm not talking about the rap trio Migos. I'm talking about an ancient half-wasp, half-lobster that H.P. Lovecraft concocted up in the 1920s in the Lovecraftian mythos. From their first appearance in Lovecraft's 1931 The Whisperer in Darkness, the Migo are huge, pinkish, fungus crustacean-like creatures the size of me. Yeah, these things are massive. From planet Yuggoth, or Pluto as we named it, they arrived on Earth during the Jurassic period. After fighting off attacks from the Elder Things that had landed here, the Migo eventually hid in the northern hemisphere. These creatures prefer to be left alone and in remote mountain ranges. Today they inhabit the Andes, Himalayas, and Appalachians. These creatures prefer to be left alone. They possess a pair of bat-like wings which are used to fly through the fabric of space. The wings don't fly here on Earth as well in our atmosphere, but they're capable of going into a sleep-like state, floating in space until softened and reheated by the sun or another star. The Migo transport humans from Earth to Pluto and back again by removing the subject's living brain and placing it into a brain cylinder where they fly it home for research. I'm sorry, a what? Their technology is extremely advanced to the point that members of the species will casually engage in surgery for relatively trivial reasons, such as adjusting their own vocal organs to become capable of speaking to humans. An elite ancient race, the Migo communicate by telepathy, and their research surrounding the human brain is still unknown. Hold on. So Migo, which translates to Yeti, lives in the mountains, evidence of giant wasp-crab hybrids and fossils. They abduct humans and bring them back to Earth only for research purposes. Yeah, these are aliens. These are aliens, everyone. God, I hope not. And number 4, Nodens. Nodens, aka the Hunter, aka Lord of the Great Abyss, is one of the elder gods in the Cthulhu mythos, first appearing in Lovecraft's The Strange High House in a Mist. A god of journeys and endeavors, Nodens appears as an old man with long white hair and a beard, yet massive, strong, and powerful. He often rides in a chariot formed from a huge seashell, pulled by numerous different types of sea monsters. Nodens is served by the night gaunts. These gothic, rubbery, black, faceless gargoyles terrorize the dream world. In Lovecraft's novella The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, Nodens is seen as an archaic god served by the night gaunts, and he's depicted as somewhat benevolent, opposing some of Lovecraft's titanous creatures. He mostly hunts down evil creatures in the dreamlands that may get out and terrorize humans. He prefers to hunt the servants of the great old ones because they're usually more intelligent and offer the best sport, but not an act to protect humans necessarily. He has, however, been known to help humans time to time. Quote, "And upon dolphins' backs was balanced a vast crenulate shell, wherein rode the grey and awful form of primal Nodens, Lord of the Great Abyss." I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, this guy's Poseidon, right? I mean, the really old but really powerful thing, the god of the sea, helping humans but not really helping humans. Safe to say that this guy's either Ariel's father or a merman. Come on, he's even got a trident. Number 3, Bullcrug. Bullcrug is the lake-dwelling god of the semi-amphibian Thuma people, or voiceless ones, of Ib in the land of Mnar. The strange creatures known as the Thuma descended from the moon along with their city of Ib to come to rest on the edge of a great lake in the land of Mar. These are like half frog, half people kind of creatures. Seemed to be a kind race as well. There, they lived in peace for many centuries until men came to colonize Mar. The men in search of precious metals looked at the Thuma and hated them because of their differences and perceived weaknesses. This hatred festered until finally the men sent their warriors to kill all of the Thuma. In a single day of slaughter, the poor creatures were wiped out entirely and their city destroyed. The lizard deities slept beneath the calm waters of the lake until the humans of Sarnath cruelly slaughtered the population of Ib and stole the god's effigy. The deity stirred from its rest and swam to the surface, and let's just say he was pissed. Whether Bullcrug had come to replace the men with his own worshippers or transformed them into Thuma for revenge is still unclear, but the end result was the same: hybrids. After the destruction of the men in their city, the deities slithered back down to the depths of the thick black lake where it rests to this day. Every year the Thuma people pray and sacrifice to the deity as the waters of the surface become stirred and choppy. I just saw a video the other day of people hand feeding the lake so that the monsters don't end up getting hungry and ravenously eating the town. Yeah, is this a thing? Apparently cities that border water do this a lot. I don't know. Number 2, Mother Hydra. A colossal deep one. Mother Hydra is an enormous humanoid creature with a fish-like face, flapping gills, and slippery scaly skin. She, alongside Father Dagon and Great Cthulhu himself, form the holy trinity of the Deep Ones, all being gods of the aquatic race. Hydra and her partner Dagon have been entrusted by Cthulhu with the guardianship of his daughter Cthyla, if anything should happen to him. His daughter, aka the Kraken, is a power not to be messed with. First appearing in Lovecraft's The Shadow over Innsmouth, Mother Hydra was one of the Foundation's targets during Project X in 1980. The operation's plan was to destroy these aquatic gods using atomic weapons, though unsuccessful, as she was able to escape the destruction of the Deep One's city along with Dagon and Cthyla. Lovecraft describes the Deep Ones as a race of undersea dwelling humanoids whose preferred habitat is the bed of the ocean. I would describe them as an 8-story Pirates of the Caribbean antagonist. However, despite being primarily marine creatures, they can surface and survive on land for extended periods of time. God, isn't that lovely? And terrifying. Though tied to the ocean, tied. All Deep Ones are immortal. They don't die, except by accident or violence. And they don't grow old either, and they can grow to a massive size. How would one of these things die by accident? Almost every major culture throughout history that resides by a sea has talked about a massive creature with numerous tentacles and heads. She is seen in many forms, from sea snakes to mermaids. Either way, what do you think? I think this is the same Hydra that the Romans, the Greeks, the Celts have been talking about for thousands of years. What about you? And coming in at our number 1 spot, Spiders of Leng. I chose this next Lovecraftian creature for the number 1 spot due to my own abysmal fear of spiders. Yeah, I said it. I'm scared of spiders, okay? Arachnophobia alert in 5 seconds. The Spiders of Leng, or Leng spiders as they're sometimes known, are sentient cannibalistic creatures which appear in H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, first appearing in the dream quest of unknown Kadath. In ancient times, these spiders controlled the entire plateau of Leng in Earth's dreamlands, until defeat in the Long War with the Men of Leng. These things were almost hunted to extinction and had to retreat to the southern mountains where they live in their nests. There they dwell to this day, ready to prey on any creature foolish enough to venture through the cavernous mountain range. These purple reddish arachnids appear somewhat similar to terrestrial earth spiders, yet of course on a much larger scale. I feel like all these creatures are just much scarier when they're like 150 feet high. For example, the smaller spiders of Leng are the size of a Great Dane dog. Yeah, that's too big. That's way too big. And larger and older Leng spiders, of course, could tower over an elephant. Yeah, I'm done. No, I'm done. Thank you. If that's not the scariest part, they have an intelligence far higher than that of a regular animal. Imagine elephant-sized spiders trucking to a city near you. I'm calling Oppenheimer, man. They are carnivores and even trap and indulge in cannibalism of other spiders. Finally, some good news. Eat them all up. They are capable of spinning city-sized webs to disembowel their victims. They also possess a venomous bite that paralyzes their next meal, and of course they have the ability to climb literally any surface. Of course they can, yeah. See why this is the number 1 spot? If I saw a Godzilla-sized kraken or a 5-story spider, yeah, I'm going for a swim, that's all I'm saying.